KC Joyner set to jump on board, breaking down the matchups in this one and all the big NFL. It's a good schedule this week. We'll look at the schedule with Casey here on the Sports Box. If you missed my conversation with UFC fighter Mickey Gall, check that out on our YouTube channel. He's fighting tomorrow, UFC on Fox. Free show, Mickey Gall. My conversation with him on our YouTube channel. Also, Phillies' assistant GM, Scott Profrock. You can check that out, as well as the Phillies extend Odubel Herrera. We'll look into the NFL, the matchups. So a lot of good matchups this week. And we'll look at that with KC Joyner as he joins us now on the Sports Bash 97.3. ESPN is Eagles-Ravens here, Casey. These two teams were very similar. They both got off to good starts. They kind of went down, but the Ravens picked themselves back up. Not so much for Philadelphia.
Yeah, not so much for Philly. And the Ravens are doing it. You look at the roster and they go, okay, they don't have great receivers. They really don't have great running backs. Flacco, he's never turned into the elite quarterback people thought he would. They've got some weaknesses in the secondary, and yet they're still winning. And it's not like they're fluking out to a lot of their wins. I mean, they're getting some dominant wins. So kudos to John Harbaugh.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts before we move on to this game and some of the matchups. Michael Floyd release, good fit for Philly. Should they have kicked the tires? The Ravens the Patriots end up getting them more. The rich get richer. But should a Philadelphia team with what they have, would he be a good fit here?
He's got the vertical skills. Do you want to take on that sort of a potential off-field issue? I think New England's had a lot of history of being able to integrate players who have some potential off-field issues into their team, and I think they're ready for that. And maybe Philadelphia, maybe they want to look at it, but maybe they also want to look at maybe we don't need that kind of a potential problem in our team.
This is a team that really struggled. That position is a position they've really struggled with. And this week, Jimmy Smith is out in the game, and you wonder, is this a week? There's some people locally here, Casey, writing that they think Wentz should sit the game out because they don't want him taking any more hits.
Yeah, I can see that, but at the same time, Wentz hasn't shown. Yeah, I haven't seen where Wentz has shown that maybe he's flinching, maybe his mechanics are off, because he's taking hits and things. But I've not seen him close to where it looks like he's throwing in the towel, or like I'm worried if they hit him, he's going to just collapse and you're going to wreck the rookie. I don't see that, and if you don't see that in him, then again, if you benched him right now, or you said, hey, we want to take you out because we don't think you want to get hit, the other players on the team are going to go, well, heck, he doesn't think he can get hit. So I imagine it's just you don't want to do that unless you're in a really, really difficult situation.
Yeah, this week, how does this Ravens defense look overall? It's not the Ray Lewis-led defenses here, but this one's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. They've got some coverage issues. Tavon Young's a rookie who came in. He's played really well. He's been filling in an injury absence. They've got Eric Weddle's playing really good at strong safety. They've got Webb at free safety. They're better at safety than they are at corner. And that's the issue is when you've got Smith out, it's not gonna help their corner coverage. But they haven't been dominant in corner coverage most of the year anyway. So I think it's gonna help Philadelphia to have Smith out there, but I don't think it's gonna be they're really weak in coverage now because their whole scheme tends to play better maybe than the talent level.
KC Joyner is with us. Joe Flacco will face this Eagles defense that has had problems in their secondary, and he's thrown for over 300 yards the last couple of weeks. You would assume that they could go at the Eagles via the air, but they got a couple of running backs that are interesting this week as well with Dixon, and West, a couple of guys. I'm interested to see how the Ravens, who do need this game, how they attack Philadelphia.
They've shown a propensity to allow Flacco to throw the football, and that's not just a this-year thing. They'll let him throw the ball when the matchups are correct. And if I'm them, I'm looking at the Eagles' rush defense going, okay, they've been a bit hit or miss, but, man, they've been consistent most of the year. And I'm looking at the secondary going, well, McKelvin's not playing very well. Well, Jalen Mills is one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. Okay, their secondary makes mistakes, too. So, yeah, they've got some fairly good safeties, but they get out of position sometimes, and they don't stay disciplined. So if I'm Baltimore, I'm going, yeah, I want to go ahead and get Philadelphia. I want to go after the defense. I want to let Flacco, if the game flow calls for, throw at least 40 passes. I wouldn't hesitate to do that if I were John Harbaugh.
KC Joyner is with us. Obviously, the Eagles with not a lot to play for this week, and Baltimore does. But one thing is Wentz, we talked a little bit about him, but over the last 3 weeks, is there something that he needs to do to prove anything, or do you think that the Eagles, have something solid here, and regardless of what happens these last 3 weeks, that they got something to build with here? Because, He's thrown so many passes. Does that inflate his numbers, or his numbers up because of the amount of – I mean, he's going to throw a record amount of passes for a rookie.
Yeah, he is, and the thing is he's held up for it. And if I'm the Eagles, it's one of those things where Bill Walsh used to always say that you wanted to set a standard for your team because he knew that 3 times a year you get your team to step up and play really well, and your team could play, above its talent level maybe. So, but you can really only count on that kind of emotional boost 3 times a year. And they always wanted to say, here's our standard of where we play every single week, no matter what. And I think that's really what you want to get out of Wentz is to say, okay, hey, these games might not mean so much, but you need to concentrate on playing well. You need to concentrate on doing the things you do and getting better for that. And if I'm the Eagles, I really want to look at these last 3 games. Not that you don't want to win, but you want to work on things to say, okay, these are things maybe that Wentz doesn't do well. Let's get some of these things worked out that he things that he can do well. I want him to go through a game where he's not forcing passes into coverage, making bad decisions, because he's been doing some of that of late.
Should be interesting to see what Philadelphia team comes out. There's so many times that this gets frustrating where you think they're playing out the string, and then they win 3 games at the end, and you're like, now is when you decide to play hard, turn things around. But one thing I guess you'll be watching over the last 3 games is Wentz and Zach Ertz. I think we talk a lot about Ertz, but I think it'll be really interesting to see if those two, they seem like they have got a little something going here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they have. And again, will the Eagles go ahead and say we want to keep throwing it to the tight end? Because a lot of times in the past, it's like, yeah, they face Washington and it looks great when they're throwing to the tight end, and then they don't do that against other teams. I think it's for Baltimore, though, if you're looking at what they've done against tight ends in the past few weeks, against Dallas, 7 for 58, 7 receptions, 58 yards. Cincinnati, 5 for 68 and a touchdown. Miami, 4 for 46. New England, 4 for 70 and a touchdown. They aren't dominant numbers there, so I think Philly can go and can do some targets there, but I still don't think that's going to be the weakness. If I'm them, I still want to test Tavon Young. He's Baltimore's rookie cornerback, and I want to see can he hold up. He has so far, but maybe I want to try and do some things to throw some mixers at him that he hasn't seen before.
Before we get to the full schedule here, Jared Goff, your take over the small sample size. He looked lost last night.
Yeah, he's looked lost all season long. He didn't do very well in vertical passes at college, and he hasn't done well when you get a pass rush in his face. It's one of those situations where you talked about, maybe can Wentz hold up to this and stuff. I've seen nothing out of Wentz to suggest that he shouldn't be out there. With Goff, you don't want to wreck this guy. I mean, and if you put him out there, I think that's why the Rams didn't put him out there, because they realized he's just not ready. And you send him out there for another couple games and things, and it's like, what are you doing? Are you going to completely wreck this guy? Maybe go ahead and sit him down and say, okay, you need to come back next year.
Let's look at the game that we'll see on Saturday, which is Miami and New York. Now, the Dolphins still have something to play for here. What are they going to look like without Tannehill?
The Jets haven't been quite as good at stopping the run of late, so Miami is going to get back to the running game, because that's really the key to what turned their season around. It wasn't that their passing game did so great. Their running game has been a lot better. And the Jets are coming off a game where, to San Francisco's running backs last week, the Jets gave up 24 carries for 225 yards and a touchdown. And the week before, they gave up 33 for 109. In fact, they've given up over 100 yards to opposing running backs in 4 of the last 5 games. If I'm Miami, I'm saying, okay, Jai, let's see if we can get back to maybe not 200 like you did a couple of times earlier this year, but let's see if we can give the ball to you and do a run-heavy game here. Because they can also throw if they want to, but why not go ahead and test that week?
Yeah, because the Jets are a team that look like they've pretty much given up at this point. So, but it's a tough spot for Miami going on the road. And this, we talked to Quadri Ismail last hour, and he talked about that loss that the Ravens had to the Jets that might ruin their playoffs. The Jets could play a factor in ruining the Dolphins' playoffs.
Yeah, good thing for the Dolphins is you always tend to play divisional games a lot tougher than you play regular games or against a non-divisional opponent, so that's going to help them with that. And again, the Jets have looked like, this is not just 1 week, they've looked up for a couple weeks here like they're just going through the motions, and that doesn't speak well for their coaching staff, but I don't think the Dolphins are having that kind of a problem. So I would be surprised if the Dolphins had a lackluster game. I'm expecting the Dolphins to win that game at least by double digits.
Okay, a couple other games, a lot of games with some playoff implication, but Green Bay going on the road, they've been hot. Any reason to expect they're going to slow down?
No, I wouldn't expect any reason for them to slow down unless the weather is an issue. But then again, they're Green Bay, so they're used to bad weather regardless. So no, I wouldn't expect it. They've got favorable matchups in the secondary, and I think that they can also run the ball. I mean, they this might be starting to look more like the old Green Bay offense, where it's power running and then vertical passing rather than the spread attack they've been using. But they have either option they can go to.
Tennessee and Kansas City. Kansas City playing for seeding right now, still in play for the top seed. Tennessee playing for that division here. They got a big win last week against the Broncos. Can they make it 2 in a row against AFC West teams?
I'm curious to see if they can get Delaney Walker involved because Eric Berry's been a shutdown corner against tight ends this year. If they keep him out of the lineup, it's going to change somewhat what Tennessee does. But Tennessee's game is still their running attack. They have the second best good blocking rate in the league. It's a metric I have that measures how well an offensive line is giving its ball carriers quality rushing plays. And I think that they'll be able to get that moving against Kansas City. So I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game where both teams are trying to do some smash mouth and going to be some good December football. Wouldn't be surprised to see Tennessee pull the upset.
Detroit and New York, another very compelling game. I don't know what to make of Detroit now on the road against this Giants team where, they've had the blueprint to beat the Cowboys. That's something, a feather in their cap here. So two teams that even though they're both in the playoffs, both with 9 wins, still hard to really characterize who they are.
Yeah, and the Giants now, they've got a two-headed rushing attack, so that's helping. They've got some really good corners. I'm curious to see if Detroit sends Darius Slay, if they keep him on Shepard, who's been playing really well of late, and who he would line up against if you use like the lineup matchups, or if they're going to move him over to stay with Odell Beckham or do kind of a mix, because I don't think Detroit has beyond Slay. They don't have any cornerbacks who are able to slow down those, either of those wide receivers. So I think it's going to be a matter of Eli dropping back and saying, "Where's Slay? I'm going the other direction."
All right, KC Joyner is with us as we look at this Week 15 schedule here. How about Minnesota against Indianapolis? Peterson looks like he's going to play, so they're going to get a little boost in the final. But these are two teams here really on their last legs.
Yeah, and people keep talking about, Adrian Peterson. I do a number of fantasy interviews, and people ask, is Adrian Peterson going to be a great player this week, or is he going to play very well? Like, Minnesota's run blocking has been really bad this year, and even Adrian Peterson, even in his prime, if you don't get, when he had bad run blocking, he'd only get 2.5 yards a carry. It's not like he can break away things all by himself, so I don't think that's going to be the kind of thing that's going to turn things around for him. And I actually think that Indianapolis is going to be able to run the ball fairly well, because Minnesota's rush defense has been not terrible, but subpar, and I think Indianapolis is going to be able to move the ball and be able to get some vertical passing going when Minnesota has to come up try and stop the run. Yeah,
that should be a very intriguing game, Indy and Minnesota. Elsewhere, you've got this matchup between New England and Denver. Denver very in danger here of winning the Super Bowl and not making it back to the playoffs all of a sudden.
Yeah, and New England, the thing about New England, though, is that the vertical passing game finally got back into gear last week, because before last week's game, the previous 4 weeks of the season, Tom Brady had ranked 20th in the league in yards per attempt, and he wasn't doing quite so well in vertical passing. So I don't know if he's going to be able to get the vertical passing game going, but I was just talking about struggling rushing attacks. The Broncos, they give 134 yards to Tennessee's running backs last week, 110 to Jacksonville's in Week 13, 215 to Oakland in Week 9. I mean, that's a defense that's allowing a lot of rushing, and I have a feeling that LeGarrette Blount's going to get 20, 25 carries in this game.
It should be interesting there. How about Oakland going on the road? Oakland's still playing for some playoffs and playing for seeding. They're still in that mix for the top seed. San Diego's been pesky.
Yeah, they have, and Farrell, their guys replacing Gordon, I think he's going to be able to get a good number of carries. I'm be surprised to see him touch the ball 20 times in this game. And Oakland's run defense has not been that good. And Oakland finds a lot of ways to win, but on the flip side, there's a lot of ways to beat Oakland. Their run defense isn't that good, and I'm curious. Okay, look, is Carr Spinger going to be okay now? Is he going to look like David Carr again, or is he get back to what he was? And San Diego can turn the game into a shootout, and if that happens, I think they got a shot at winning that game.
That one's going to be one to watch because, as you said, it could be a shootout game in San Diego. And how about Tampa and Dallas? That's the Sunday nighter. You got Dallas coming off that loss, but so much. And I want to get your thoughts on what the quarterback spot should look like in Dallas, but so much circulating about Dak. This is a very good Tampa defense. How do you look at this matchup?
Well, this is going to be the most interesting matchup in that game. Is going to be Tampa's pass rush, and they are, if my memory serves correct, they are third in the league in pass rush pressure since Week 9. It's either third or fourth, I forget which it is, but they're right near the top of the league in that metric over the past few weeks. but Dallas is very good at pass blocking too. So will Tampa Bay be able to get that going? Because if they can't get that going, I got to think that Dallas and Dak could get back to form as far as they're concerned. But also, if I'm Dallas, I don't know why they keep talking. Why there's talk about bench Dak and put Romo out there. Until things start to really falter, don't change your quarterback. You've got things going good there, and if Dak has one bad game, you don't send the message to say if you have one bad game, we're going to pull you out. And again, against a tough Giants defense on the road, you don't pull your quarterback just because he struggles once.
So how's he been playing overall? I mean, there's some people that think the last couple of weeks, they won a couple of weeks ago, but you started to see some cracks. And then last week, so you're in the camp of staying with Dak.
I'm in the camp of staying with Dak because I don't know the benefit. If you're putting Romo out there, are you telling Dak he can't make it go? If you did it during a game and said, hey, I'm going to put you in there as a relief pitcher, or if at least you said beforehand, Romo's our relief pitcher, Dak's our starter, we're not going to pull Dak, we're not going to bench Dak, but we might, or we're not going to bench Dak permanently, but we may put Romo in there if the offense isn't going. That's one thing. But
right.
If you're talking about just saying we're going to bench Dak, no, I can't buy that at all. He's your starter, and you stay with him because he's your long-term quarterback.
So what do you think of Tampa, though? Can they win on the road here with Winston the way they won 5 in a row?
They can if they can get if they can get that pass rush going. If they can do that, they can disrupt the entire attack. Their run defense is good enough, and if they can get that pass rush pressure, because that's the key. That's why they've been doing so well against New Orleans and Seattle. That's why they've been able to shut those teams down. And I think they could potentially against Dallas, but Dallas has a better offensive line than those other teams.
Hey, Washington Monday night, they're hanging on too, trying to get in. Carolina. Here's another one. I mean, the two teams that went to the Super Bowl last year both could be on the outside looking in. How about Washington at home this week? What do they need to do to beat Carolina?
Carolina's talking, their defense, their secondary is talking like they're back to what they were last year. And you look at the numbers over the past 7 weeks, and they are a lot better. But then you start looking at their opponents and going, well, okay, yes, some of your opponents have been really bad. You would expect them to well against those opponents. So I don't think they're nearly as good as some of the stats might say. And Washington, Cousins has been the best vertical passer in the league arguably since week 4. So you start looking at that and go, okay, Carolina's got a good rush defense. Washington's going to have to throw the football. I think Washington will be able to throw the football. They'll be able to throw vertical to a lot of players, and I think they'll be able to get their offense going. And I just don't think Cam Newton, because of a variety of issues, he's not what he was last year. I don't think Carolina can keep up in a shootout.
What is it, the overall, when you look at them, where to you did it all go wrong for that team? Because you look at that team last year, Casey, real quick. That was a team that makes the Super Bowl and had a young core. And although they didn't do a lot in the offseason, they had, Benjamin coming back. It was like this was our free agent signing. We didn't really have to be a big player in free agency. We got better by adding a guy that was hurt last year to our league. So they didn't really have to be a big player in free agency. They had a good young core, and they added to it. So you were like, wow, this team is ready to be around here for a long time. I'm really surprised by them.
If you're talking Carolina, yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, is that last year, second half of the season, Cam Newton did his numbers spiked in part because he had 7 games against opponents that were ranked in the bottom 8 in yards per attempt allowed. So he got a string of opponents who were really favorable, and he's able to hit long passes against them. And you start looking at their opponents this year, and you go, okay, well, they got Denver week 1. They had Minnesota week 3, and Minnesota's defense is really playing well. Okay, they had Arizona. They got Los Angeles. They got Kansas City. They got Seattle. You start looking at the opponents they're playing and go, wow, they don't have the cream puff opponents they did last year. And they lost a lot of players in their secondary. They had to turn over their whole secondary. So, and that's a big loss for them because they don't have. Now they're getting players back, but that they're not as good in the secondary as they were last year, at least for the core of the season. And their vertical passing game hasn't developed because Benjamin played well early on, and he hasn't done anything since. So you start adding it all together and go, the formula they had last year just isn't working out. But a lot of it has to do with schedule.
And that's a good point. You see it a lot, and you're seeing. Look at. For all intents and purposes, Dallas has not played a great schedule either. They had the last place schedule, and they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, they are. And if you're looking at powerhouse offenses, if you're looking at top-tier offenses, I've got Dallas as having played 4 top-tier offenses this year. They haven't played a lot of bottom-tier offenses. They played 2 teams that I rate as having really bad offenses, but most of the offenses they're playing are average, and they've got the makings of a really good offense. But I think when they get to the playoffs, that formula, now you're not going to get to just a cream puff bows. You might have a Seattle, you might have Washington, and you might have, you could have Detroit, you could have some top-notch offenses. I think the formula could still work for them, but I think Dallas is going to have to prove that they can win a shootout game when they get in the playoffs.
Good stuff. KC Joyner here on the Sports Bash is Week 15. Got to start last night, and there's a Saturday game, and then, of course, Eagles Sunday. Sunday night, you got Cowboys and Bucs, and you can hear all that right here on 97.3. Enjoy all the football. Before we let you run, the Performance Center, your trip down there, I got the article. It looked like an unbelievable experience.
It was. Yeah, the WB has a Performance Center. It's their training center here in Central Florida, here in Orlando, and they have a setup where they allow fans to go, and you go and do an entire show. You cut promos, you do broadcasting, you get involved in the matches. I mean, people are managers, they're ring announcers and things, and do all those things to let people in there. And I wrote an article for ESPN's WB section about that, and coded the whole day, and it was a fantastic time. And if you ever got an idea of wanting to do that sort of thing, take a read about it, because it might be something people want to do, because it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Really cool. And, of course, check that out, WWE on ESPN. KC Joyner here on the Sports Bash, and we'll check in with KC again next week as the Eagles will get ready to take on the Giants. That's a Thursday night game. Don't forget, Thursday night against the Giants, and that'll be right here on 97.3. Thanks, pal. Enjoy the football.
You too, man. Appreciate it.